So basically, here's a person who's taken Latin and is about to have a degree in classical studies and doesn't have the slightest idea. She's in her job prospects are zilch, and she's ticked off. Now, do you think somebody going to college, borrowing whatever it is, in this case, $20,000 a year, to get a degree in classical studies ought to be told by somebody at the school that it's a worthless degree? Well, I don't know what the minor was. It might be Latin. I can't read. It's a lousy picture. I can't read the woman's printing or handwriting. But at any rate, why is it that no one in her life told her that getting a degree in classical studies would not lead to employment? In fact, how many college students do you think believe that just getting a degree equals a high-paying job? Probably a lot of them. Not that you can blame them. That's what they've been sold on. That's what they've been told. Ergo, that's what they expect. A college degree equals success, riches, whatever, not work. This is key now. Snurdly's in there laughing at me, but you stick with me on this. Get the degree. The degree and the diploma are all you need. That's the guarantee. So this student says she wants a degree. I'm assuming it's a she. There's no picture of the students. I don't know. But this person goes in there with a degree, wants to get a degree in classical studies. Now, I think the colleges ought to be held accountable here. You show up, you want a degree in classical studies, you need to be told what that really means. Well, how do you want to use your degree in classical studies? Do you even know what it is?
Well, yes. I want to study the classics so that I can be an expert in the classics, so that I can then study them further, and help others.
Really? Okay, how much money do you expect to make doing this?
Well, as a college graduate with classical studies degree, maybe a Latin minor, $200,000 a year, enough to pay off my student loans in the first 4 years, and then after that, who knows? Can you tell me where do you go to apply for a job with a classical studies degree? Well, anybody who's interested in studying classically, I would think would be interested in my services because I'm going to be an expert. At that point, somebody at the university ought to say, babe, you are wasting your time in a nothing major. We are stealing your money. You're going to be qualified for jack excrement when you get out of here. But they don't. Now, this is part of the trick. This is the ruse. And it's actually clever. Snurdly's in there laughing uncontrollably. I know I'm a naturally funny guy. But follow me on this. So here you have Miss Braindead, freshly out of college with her classical studies degree, who thinks that she wants to go classically study, and that people also want to study classics studiously and classically, that she's going to be very hireable, very marketable, and so forth. Gets out in the real world and finds her only chance is Occupy Wall Street, and to write a note for a TV camera about how worthless her degree is. Well, that's what she does here. Her job prospects, zero. Yeah, they are, and they have been since you declared that major. And somebody should have told you that from the moment you declared the major in classical studies. Tell me, any of you at random listening all across the fruited plain, what the hell is classical studies? What classics are studied? Or is it learning how to study in a classical way? Or is it learning how to study in a classy as opposed to unclassy way? And what about unclassical studies? Why does nobody care about the unclassics?
What are the classics? And how are the classics studied? Oh, because you're going to become an expert in Dickens. You're assuming it's literature. See, you're assuming we're talking classical literature here. What if it's classical women's studies? What if it's classical feminism? Who the hell knows what it is? One thing I do know is that she, the brain-dead student, doesn't know what it is after she's got a major in it. Because all she knows to do with it is go down to Occupy Wall Street and complain. And write a note for the cameras. But as I said, this is deviously clever. Socialists, liberals work undercover for decades, taking over higher education. And then they dilute it, and they make higher education anything but higher. Really, nothing special about it unless you go specific into the law or medicine or something where you really have to know it. But most of these majors are useless, such as black women's studies, women's studies, whatever studies, postmodernist theory in the new modernist world, whatever they get a degree in. The socialists that run universities dilute the education. They offer useless majors. And then they lie about the quality of these useless majors. They lie about the happiness and the jobs and the money that awaits you after you get the degree in something like classical studies. Then, and this is where the payoff is, after a generation or two of such students, after a generation or two of such worthless degrees, after a generation or two of deceived students with worthless degrees, out in the world finding themselves very unhappy, very unemployable, and without money to do all the fun things they want, what do they then demand? Socialism as a remedy. They demand that everybody else take care of them. And my friends, this is not an accident. I think this is part of a strategy that the left has had, part of many strategies they have used in taking over the education system. We know they propagandize. We know they indoctrinate. We know they dumb down. They also teach the preference of communism, the moral superiority of liberalism, socialism, communism. They teach that capitalism is immoral and unjust. They promote all of this worthless education. And then these bright-eyed, bushy-tailed know-nothings get out of school with what they think is their ticket. And it's a ticket to ride nowhere. What do they then demand? That everybody else take care of them. Ergo, you get Occupy Wall Street. Ergo, you get young generations of students asking for government control of everything because it was so unfair. So they did everything their parents told them. They did everything everybody told them. They went to school, they got a degree, and these evil businesses won't hire them. These dirty, rotten CEOs are stealing all the money, and they're giving it to themselves in bonuses and salary, but they won't give it to the college graduates who rightfully deserve it, who've worked hard and have applied themselves. They got great degrees like classical studies. They're unhirable, unemployable, and that's just unfair and unjust. And ergo, here comes the clamor and the clarion call for socialism, for government to fix it.